My son sold my childhood home without asking, then a stranger knocked on my door. The day I lost my son, I wasn't standing in a courtroom or a hospital room. I was standing on the front porch of the house I was born in, watching a stranger hand me a key. That's how it ended. Not with a fight, not with an apology. Just a key, cold and unfamiliar in my palm, and the sound of his truck disappearing down the driveway. I didn't even know he was selling it. My own son, and I didn't have a clue. Let me back up. I'm Elena and I'm 67 years old. For 32 years I worked as a receptionist at a small dental office in town. I answered phones, filed insurance claims, and made small talk with people who were always a little too nervous to be there. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I retired a few years back with a small pension and a little bit put away. Enough to get by, enough to live on. But the one thing I had that nobody could take from me, or so I thought, was the house. The old two-story on Maple Street. It was never a mansion. It was the kind of house where the floors creaked in the winter and the upstairs got too hot in the summer. The paint on the back porch was peeling. The kitchen faucet dripped if you didn't twist it just right. But it was home. I was born in that house. My parents bought it in 1958 for $18,000. My daddy used to say it was the best investment he ever made, not because of the money, because of the memories. My mother would bake bread in that kitchen every Sunday and the smell would fill the whole house. I learned to walk in the living room, holding onto the edge of the sofa. I learned to read sitting in the window seat by the front door, watching the cars go by. My husband, Frank, and I moved in after we got married. My parents moved to a smaller place, but they wanted us to have the house. They wanted the family to stay in it. Frank and I raised our son Derek in that house. We celebrated his birthdays there. We tucked him in at night in the room at the end of the hall. I remember him as a little boy, running down those creaky stairs on Christmas morning, his eyes wide, his feet barely touching the steps. Frank passed away 10 years ago. Lung cancer. We caught it too late. That year was a blur of hospital rooms and tired eyes. After he was gone, the house felt too big, but I couldn't leave it. I couldn't leave the walls that held our story. I couldn't leave the garden out back that Frank had planted with roses. Every time I looked at those roses, I saw his hands in the dirt. I saw him kneeling there, wiping his forehead with the back of his hand. Derek was 25 when his father died. He took it hard. They were close in a way that I wasn't with him. Derek was always a daddy's boy. When he was little, he wanted to follow Frank everywhere. Frank taught him how to fish, how to fix a leaky pipe, how to drive a stick shift. After Frank passed, Derek pulled away. It was like he lost a piece of himself. He moved out a few years later, got a job in the city about 2 hours south. He said he needed a fresh start. I understood. I missed him, but I understood. We talked on the phone. We saw each other on holidays, but something had shifted. He was always a little distant, a little short with me. He met a woman named Amanda. She was nice enough, a little polished for my taste, but she made Derek happy. They got married 3 years ago. I wasn't invited to the wedding. They wanted something small, they said, just a courthouse thing. They said they would have a big party later. They never did. I tried not to let it bother me. I really did. But I noticed the changes. Derek used to call me every Sunday. After he married Amanda, the calls became every other Sunday, then once a month. Then whenever he had time, he would always say he was busy. Work was hectic. They were renovating their house. Amanda's parents needed help. I didn't want to be the needy mother. I didn't want to be a burden, so I kept quiet. I stayed in my house. I tended my garden. I went to the grocery store. I lived my quiet life. Last fall, Derek called and said he wanted to talk about the house. He said he was worried about me living there alone. He said it was too much upkeep. The roof needed work. The heating system was old. He said it would be better if I sold it and moved into a smaller place, an apartment or a retirement community. I told him I wasn't ready to leave. I told him the house was my home, my parents' home, his home once. He kept pushing. He said I wasn't thinking about the future. He said I needed to be practical. He made it sound like he was just looking out for me, but there was something in his voice that felt off. And then Amanda called. She rarely called me. When she did, it was always to confirm something for a holiday or to tell me they couldn't make it for dinner. This time she told me they had the house appraised. She said the property value was high because of the neighborhood. She said it was a gold mine. That was her word, gold mine. I said, it's not a gold mine, it's my home. She laughed. It was a polite laugh, but I could hear the edge. She said, Elena, you're sitting on a lot of money and you don't even realize it. I didn't want money. I wanted my memories. I wanted to fall asleep listening to the wind in the old oak tree by my window, just like I had for 67 years. I wanted to wake up and see the same walls my mother saw. The phone calls started coming more frequently. Derek would be on the phone for an hour wearing me down. He would talk about safety. The stairs were dangerous. A fall could be serious at my age. He would talk about convenience. Living in town would be easier. Everything would be closer. I told him he was wrong. I told him I didn't want to leave. I told him the house would be his someday. It's in my will. He was my only child. He would get everything, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't finished living in it yet. He would sigh, that heavy sigh that sounds like a defeated father, like I was the one being unreasonable, like I was a child who didn't know better. One night he really pushed. He said, "Mom, Amanda and I have been talking. We've got some financial goals. We want to start a family. We need capital." The word capital strung. It was such a cold word. My home, our family home, reduced to capital. I told him I would think about it. I told him I needed time. A month went by, the calls stopped. I thought maybe he had come to his senses. I thought maybe he had realized he was being greedy. I was wrong. I found out through a neighbor, Betty from next door. She came over with her coffee mug the way she always did on Thursday mornings. She sat at my kitchen table and said, "Elena, I saw Derek pulling up with a truck full of people. They had a sign in the yard." I didn't understand. What kind of sign? Betty looked at me like I was the last person on earth to hear bad news. A real estate sign. He sold the house, Elena. They had buyers looking at it all weekend. I felt my legs give out. I had to sit down. The world started spinning. I didn't own the house anymore. Without my signature, without my consent, I thought about the deed. It was in a safe deposit box at the bank. It had my name on it, my name only. Frank and I had put it in my name years ago for tax purposes. I couldn't figure out how Derek had done it. I raced to the bank. The bank manager, a young man named Carter, was friendly. He was always friendly, but that day he looked nervous. He asked, "Mrs. Mitchell, are you all right?" I told him I needed to see my safe deposit box. He got the key. He opened it. The deed was gone. I stared into the empty box. My heart pounded so hard I thought I was going to be sick. I told him what had happened. He looked worried. He took me into a private office. He pulled up some records. A few weeks ago, Derek had come in. He had an ID. He had all the right forms. He had power of attorney. "I never gave him power of attorney," I said. He looked at the document. It had my signature, a shaky signature, but it looked close enough. He had forged my signature. I called the police. I called a lawyer. I called Derek. He didn't answer. His phone went straight to voicemail. I left a message that I am not proud of. It was loud. I was crying. I was shouting. I told him he had committed a crime. A few hours later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from him. It just said, "It's done. We're moving on. You'll be fine." Moving on. He was moving on from me. He had cut the cord in the most brutal way imaginable. The lawyer told me the transfer would take time. The sale might be finalized before we could stop it. He said we could prove fraud, but it would cost thousands of dollars in court fees. I didn't have thousands of dollars. I had a pension. I had a small savings account. I was drowning in legal bills before I even started. And then it happened. The sale went through. The house was bought by a development company. The company was going to tear it down and build a new, modern house. They were going to erase my past. Derek knew that. He knew they were going to destroy it. He didn't care. I was sitting in my living room when I got the call. The real estate agent told me I had 30 days to vacate the premises. 30 days. I had lived there for 67 years. I had 30 days to leave. I didn't fight it. I didn't have the strength. I packed boxes. I gave away furniture. I donated clothes. I watched the life I built get boxed up and carried away. Betty helped me. She would bring dinner. She would sit with me while I cried. She didn't know what to say. Nobody knew what to say. The day of the move, I was sitting on the floor in the empty living room. The echo was deafening. I was alone with the dust and the ghosts. I heard a knock at the door. The front door was still open. I figured it was one of the neighbors. I stood up, brushing off my jeans. I walked to the door, and standing there was a woman. She was younger than me, maybe in her late 40s. She had kind eyes and a soft smile. She was holding a thick, wrinkled envelope in her hand. "Elena?" she asked. I nodded. My voice was hoarse from crying. "Yes." "My name is Maria," she said. "I believe you knew my grandmother." I looked at her face. She had a familiarity to her, the curve of her smile, the tone of her voice, but I couldn't place it. "I'm sorry, I don't know your grandmother." She held up the envelope. Her name was Rosa, Rosa Delgado. Rosa, the name hit me like a wave. Rosa was my mother's best friend. They grew up together in the same neighborhood. They used to walk to school together. Rosa was at my house every day when I was a little girl. She would bring tamales. She would sit in the kitchen with my mother and drink coffee for hours. I used to call her Tia Rosa. She moved away when I was maybe 10 years old, back to Mexico to take care of her own mother. We lost touch. I tried to find her on the internet years ago. I couldn't find anything. I assumed she had passed. "Your Tia Rosa passed away last year," Maria said. "She lived a long life, 92 years old." "I'm so sorry," I said. "She was a wonderful person. She was like family." Maria smiled. "She never stopped talking about your mother, and she never stopped talking about you. She kept this envelope for you. She told me to find you one day." She handed me the envelope. It was heavy. It smelled like old paper and dust. "Open it," Maria said. "It's for you." My hands were shaking. I tore open the seal. Inside was a letter, handwritten in Rosa's cursive, a letter that was written 25 years ago. There was also a key, a small rusty key, the kind that opens a safe deposit box or a strong box. I sat on the floor again. Maria sat beside me. She didn't say a word. I unfolded the letter and started reading. My dear Elena asterisk. If you are reading this, then I am gone, but I want you to know something. When I left for Mexico, I took something with me, something that didn't belong to me. Your mother and I went to the bank together in 1975. She was worried. She said your father was getting sick. She said they didn't have much money. She wanted to make sure you were taken care of. She opened a separate account, a secret account. She put money in it, bit by bit. Every month she put a little away. She never told your father. She was afraid he would say they needed the money for other things. She wanted it to be a surprise. She wanted it to be a wedding gift for you. She gave me the key to the deposit box. She asked me to keep it safe. She asked me to give it to you when I thought you needed it. She didn't want anyone else to know, not even Frank. She wanted it to be your secret. I took the key with me when I went home. I was going to send it to you, but then I heard you married Frank. I heard you were happy. I didn't want to interfere. I wanted you to have it when you needed it most. I'm so sorry I waited so long. I'm sorry I never sent it to you sooner. The money in that account has been growing for decades. I don't know how much is there, but I know it's yours. Lover asterisk. Rosa. I stopped reading. I couldn't breathe. My mother had been looking out for me all those years while I was struggling, while Frank was sick, while I was raising Derek by myself. My mother had saved money for me, a secret emergency fund. Maria touched my arm. There's a bank account. It's in the envelope I checked. There's enough in there to keep you comfortable for a long time. I looked at the letter, then I looked at the key in my hand. It was the key to my future. My mother had given me a safety net and I never even knew it. I went to the bank the next morning. The safe deposit box was still in my mother's name. It had been dormant for years. I had to prove I was her daughter. I had to provide a birth certificate. It took hours. When the clerk finally opened the box, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. Inside was a stack of papers, account statements, bonds, a single photograph of my mother holding me as a baby. I asked the bank manager to calculate the balance. He went into his office. He came out a few minutes later. He looked at me and smiled. Mrs. Mitchell, the total balance is $487,000. I stared at him. $400,000. Yes, ma'am, your mother invested well. The interest over the decades, it built up. I started crying right there at the counter. The bank clerks rushed to get me tissues. The manager asked if I was okay. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. I left the bank and walked to the park. I sat on a bench and looked at the trees. I thought about my mother. She died when I was 30. She had Alzheimer's at the end. She didn't remember who I was, but before she got sick, she had the foresight to do this. She knew the world could be cruel. She knew I might need help. She saved me. Even from the grave, she saved me. I called the lawyer. I asked him to stop the eviction. I told him I wanted to buy the house back. He said it was going to cost almost double what Derek had sold it for. The development company had already started demolition on the interior. The kitchen was gone. The floors were ripped up. It was a shell. I didn't care. It was still my home. It was still my history. I told him to make the offer. The development company countered. I accepted. The money that was supposed to be a wedding gift, my mother's love letter to me, became the instrument of my redemption. I bought back my childhood home. The day I got the keys, I pulled into the driveway. The front yard was a mess from the construction trucks. The windows were boarded up. The door was new but ugly. It didn't match the house. I sat in my car for a long time. I looked at the house that had seen me laugh. It had seen me cry. It had seen my husband alive and it had seen my husband die. I walked up to the front door. I unlocked it. I pushed it open. The inside was destroyed. The walls were gutted. The stairs were gone. There was dust everywhere, but the skeleton was still there, the bones of the house. I could still see where the living room used to be. I could still see the archway that led to the kitchen. I knew I could rebuild it. I could fix it. I could make it better than before. And then I heard footsteps. I turned around. Derek was standing in the doorway. He looked awful. His shirt was untucked. His hair was a mess. He had bags under his eyes. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "Amanda left me," he said. "She took everything, the house, the cars, the money. She told me I was a loser." I didn't feel sympathy. I felt a cold emptiness. "You committed fraud, Derek. You forged my signature. You stole from me." "I know," he said. "I'm sorry." I laughed. It was a hollow laugh. "You're sorry. You're only sorry because she left you. You only came back because you have nowhere else to go." "That's not true," he said. It is true, I said. You didn't call me, you didn't visit me. You sold my house out from under me, you left me homeless. I was trying to build a future for my family, he said. For Amanda, for my future kids. That was your family, I said, pointing to the room around me. This was your family, your father, your grandmother, me, but you sold us. You sold your family for capital. He started crying, he leaned against the doorframe. I made a terrible mistake, Mom, I am so sorry. I looked at him, I saw the little boy who used to run down those stairs. I saw the teenager who broke his arm trying to ride a bike. I saw the young man who stood at his father's grave, unable to speak. I saw my son, but he wasn't the same. He was a stranger who had broken my heart. I can't fix this for you, Derek, I said. I can't make this better. You did this, you have to live with it. I understand, he said. You need to go, I said. He nodded, he turned and walked away. A few weeks later I got a letter from a law firm. Derek had been served with a civil suit. The lawyer wanted to press charges for the forgery. I couldn't do it. I told him to drop the case. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted my son back, but I knew it would take time. I knew he was remorseful. I could see it in his face. But remorse doesn't undo pain, and time doesn't heal all wounds. It just teaches you how to live with the scars. I started the renovation on the house. It took a year. I lived with Betty for a few months. Then I rented a small apartment, but I visited the house every day. I met a contractor named Tom. He was a kind man. He was a widower like me. We had lunch together. We talked about our kids. He didn't have any. His wife died of cancer. He was lonely too. We found comfort in each other. We finished the house last spring. It's beautiful now. The kitchen is modern, but I kept the old window above the sink. The living room is open and airy, but I kept the original fireplace. I planted roses out back, the same kind Frank planted, the same color. The first bloom this year was a beautiful red. One Saturday morning, I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked out the window. It was Derek. He got out of the car. He was alone. He looked nervous. He walked to the front door and knocked. I opened the door. We stood there looking at each other. I saw the apology in his eyes. I saw the shame. He handed me a piece of paper. It was a check. A bank check for the amount he had stolen from me. It wasn't from him. It was from his savings, from his retirement. It was everything he had. He had been saving for months, working overtime, selling his things. I wanted to pay you back, he said. I know you have money now. I know Mom took care of you, but this is from me. I wanted you to know I'm trying to fix it. I took the check. I looked at it. Then I looked at my son. Thank you, I said. Will you come inside? He smiled. It was the first time I had seen him smile in years. We sat at the kitchen table. I made coffee. We didn't say much. We just sat there in the quiet. The same kitchen where his grandmother used to bake bread. The same kitchen where I learned to make dinner. The same kitchen where he used to sit and do his homework. We didn't talk about the betrayal. We didn't talk about the lies. We didn't talk about Amanda. We just talked about the weather. We talked about the roses. We talked about small things. He comes over for dinner every Sunday now. He helps me in the garden. We watch the old movies Frank and I used to watch. It's not the same. It will never be the same, but it's a start. I don't know if the trust will ever fully come back, but I know that he's trying, and I know that I have to try too. My mother saved me. She gave me a chance to start over. She gave me a second chance. I want to give Derek a second chance too, not because he deserves it, but because I believe in redemption. I believe that love is stronger than betrayal. I believe that families can heal. I still have the key Rosa gave me. I keep it on my nightstand. It reminds me that love endures. It reminds me that people who love you will always find a way to protect you, even when they're gone. I have my home back. I have my peace. And I have my son. That's more than I ever thought I'd have. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to Family Honor Files for more unforgettable stories of family, courage, forgiveness, justice, and second chances. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories to people who need them. Thank you for being part of the Family Honor Files community.